So, all right, Larson, so let's kind of talk about...
let's talk about your shorts.
Well, it's 105 degrees here. I couldn't freaking...
This dude comes down from California, is wearing shorts. I got my jeans and my boots. I deal with this every day.
I had to go outside for 2 minutes, and I was like, I came in drenched, man. This is crazy.
Yes, it's
here.
hot. We're having one of the hottest summers ever right now.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what happens when, you sell a house with solar, because the conversation needs to be more complex than just, I have solar. We need to know, do you own the solar?
Correct.
Do you own it, but there's a loan that still has debt, remaining on the solar?
Right.
Have you done a 25-year lease or a 20-year lease? Or have you done a power purchase agreement, a PPA? And the first two options, you own it outright or you have a loan on it, you are the owner.
Right.
And a lease or a power purchase agreement, or a PPA is what you call it, that is where the homeowner doesn't actually own the system.
Right.
There's an agreement in place either to pay for the equipment on a lease per month, or a PPA is structured in a way where you buy the power back for a certain rate. Hopefully it's less than the utility, but usually there's an escalator rate of between 1 to 4%. Every year it goes up that much, and they really backload when you do an escalator, especially, like, it really backloads the debt into like the later portion of the term. And so what happens when you sell a house with a paid off system, like you were saying, is it becomes like a great asset to the house. It raises the value of the house, and the numbers statistically show this. I mean, like, houses with solar,
across the board,
you get your money back.
Right.
But what can you kind of go into some of maybe your in your experience, kind of like what happens when people are trying to transfer these PPAs or these leases, and
for sure,
and it kind of creates some problems.
Yeah, of course, it's a great question, because PPAs were not really very popular here until recent years, and now they're very popular.
Is it because of interest rates?
Interest rates, and also, I think, to be candid with everybody, I think a lot of the sales representatives thought it's almost easier to present a PPA.
You can make an elevator pitch for, I call it the elevator pitch. You can make a PPA sound amazing. Let me share a kind of the BS. Elevator pitch. So they'll walk into your house and they'll be like, hey, don't buy this equipment. You don't want all that liability. Like, what if it breaks? You're going to be SOL. Like, the company's going to disappear and then you're gone. Or they'll say, like, oh, well, we're going to maintain your system for you. They kind of. Yeah. I don't think Sunrun. Sunrun's the biggest PPA provider in the nation, so I like to hit on
Sonova,
them. But I am fairly positive. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm like 99.99% sure that Sunrun has probably never sent a cleaning crew out to ever clean panels.
Nope.
Ever. But they give you this idea, like, oh, like, we're going to maintain it because it's ours, and so, like, if anything goes wrong, we're the ones liable for it, and they kind of like make you kind of scared, and then instead of, and I just saw this the other day, like, this system was going to be a $40,000 cash purchase. The tax credits was $12,000, so that brings the net down to $28,000.
Right.
Now, if they were to do that same deal on a PPA through Sonova, this was on like a 3.9% escalator, which I haven't even seen 3.9% escalators until this year.
Yeah, that's high.
That's like a new, like, it used to be 2.9 was like the most escalator you could, but now I'm seeing 3.9.
Yeah,
and basically, this deal was going to cost $93,000 over the course of 25 years. Yeah. Now, if you finance it, I want to be transparent here. The interest rates are pretty high right now. So if you were to finance that same system, it was going to come out to be like $75,000, which is a lot. But I really want to make sure that people understand this difference between a PPA and a loan that has not a crazy buy down. We're going to hopefully talk about buy downs a little bit.
Sure.
But the idea is that if you buy the system and then all you have to do is pay the principal off on your loan without all these prepayment penalties and baked in fees, then you're instantly out of any debt, and you've put all that value now into the property.
And you own it.
It's owned. It's going to just go to the new owner, the buyer. No, like I said, no debt, no future payments, and that's it. And so in that case, you really, considering you got 30% back for the tax credit, all you have to do is reap 70%. of your net cost, and you've basically gotten free power, which is kind of like buying a car, driving it around for 5 years, and then selling it for the same price.
Exactly the
like
perfect analogy.
That car cost you $0 in the end. So what I like to say is even if the interest rates are higher than you wish it was, which we all want the interest rates to be lower, I don't like it either. With the interest rate, it's only tied to that month. You can at any point in time write the check and be done with it.
Correct.
And you don't pay any of that interest moving forward, versus a PPA, where if you want to get out of that PPA, you literally have to come up with like a lump sum of all of the remaining payments, and there's no shortcut to just get out of it, because all that interest isn't technically interest. They've built it into the lease. And so it's not separated. There's no principal and interest separate. It's just everything is together, and you to get out of it, you just got to give them all the money. Unless you transfer it, which sometimes goes well, but sometimes the real estate agents, they'll gang up on the seller, and they'll be like, hey, this person kind of did this lease. They have $70,000 worth of debt remaining on it. The system probably costs like 25 grand. Like, we should probably ask the seller for a discount or to pay off that PPA in advance. And so now that person that signed up 3 years ago for the PPA, thinking, oh great, I'm saving $50 or $100 a month. Now they're realizing that in order to sell their house, they're gonna have to come up with way more money, or negotiate, or pay some of it off or something than what it would have cost just buy it, and then have it be owned outright and add value to the house.
What you're talking about leads directly into where a representative needs to be asking the correct questions to determine if something is right.
Well, there's too many salespeople and not enough consultants in this industry.
That is 100% true. So PPAs have their place. 100%. They do have their place.
They do.
And I have done a lot of them, but it's only in certain circumstances where you want to get into that.
Yeah.
But the non-disclosure, if you will, of the ultimate how do you get out of this at some point is not being explained to people. And if you don't do that, and then you tell someone, oh, don't worry about it, you could transfer it to the new owner, what you just said happens because the agents are now going to look at that as a negotiation sticking point, and 99% of the time the seller is going to have to be the one to make a concession to somehow get out of it to sell the home, whereas tables are turned the other direction whenever you own it, because now that's a negotiating point from the seller, not the buyer. So you're always going to put yourself in a better position. But do you want me to go ahead and explain why you would not, or why you would do a PPA?
Well, yeah, they definitely have their place.
Yeah.
And even though I beat up on PPAs a lot because they're not the best option for most people, I do always say at the end of the day, if you're going to be in your house and a PPA is your only option, go solar, by all means. It's still way better than just saying I'm going to let the utility company just charge me whatever they want, forever.
Right.
So when does a PPA really make sense?
Well, so typically there's going to be two main subjects or reasons why someone would do that. One of them is if you can't get your tax credit. So that could be a number of different things. Income is low. You might be retired on Social Security, whatever. You may not have taxable income. And if you don't have taxable income, a PPA, if you live in an area where you can do a PPA, it's great. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
In fact, we installed one yesterday. He had flown down yesterday. I was telling him that I was on the phone with my customer. We're installing one literally yesterday. And in her particular case, credit was a little bit of a concern. She didn't want a credit account because she was trying to rebuild her credit for
didn't want to mess with the debt to income.
Exactly. They didn't want to have any debt. So she was like, if we can do this without debt, I'm happy. And then she's spending X amount of dollars. She couldn't get a tax credit. I said, this is a no-brainer. PPA makes 100% sense to do this.
Yeah.
Did the math. She was super happy. In that particular situation, customer's happy, the company's happy. I'm happy because now she already referred 2 people to me literally within two weeks of signing her up. So because someone took the time to explain, the differences. When you get someone in a PPA that could have bought, you're doing them a disservice. If you're just going the easy route, so if you're out talking with somebody and you may ask that question, can I do a PPA in my area? Which you can't in all areas, by the way. So you do have to be in an unregulated market to be able to do that. But if you get to that point and it turns out you do have the option to purchase, you're always going to want to go that route. You either purchase it or opt out and don't do solar, but don't do a PPA if you can make that purchase, because the purchase is always going to be much better in the long run, hands down. Every time.
I can't really think of any scenarios where, unless you have two real estate agents that are just in the dark and they are like, we're not even going to touch this solar. We're just going to tell them that, you know, if they want to buy the house, they take the lease or they take the PPA. And I think that probably was happening more like a year ago when we were in a buyer's market.
Yeah.
But I think that as we enter a little bit more of a, and I know like inventory is still really low, but I feel like as we kind of enter into a little bit more maybe of an unstable housing market, people are going to be spending a little bit more time. I mean, it used to be that you couldn't even you couldn't even have your home inspection done. It was like, do you want to buy it or not? You know, there's no home inspection. You know, you have to just do it right now. Like
sign up 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, like you're already late.
Give me an offer. Let's go.
But as time goes on and we enter into, I think, an era where people are maybe going to be a little bit more careful about how they're spending their money. I think
we're seeing that across the board. Yeah, for sure.
I definitely think that these PPAs, ironically, while they're being sold more right now because, you know, more people are maybe in like financial distress and they don't want to take on debt. I think that unfortunately the mindset around PPAs is probably going to become even worse and worse, like the reputation of PPAs as they create more and more problems. So one thing that I see that people get frustrated with is they'll call me back 3 years later, they'll have done a PPA, and they'll say like, I want to add to my system. And you can't add to it's done, you know, like versus with the purchase system, you can always alter it later. You can kind of do what you want. If you want to add panels, add more batteries, add a battery. You know, some people, they all of a sudden, like you said, like they went through this experience, like the Snowmageddon, now they want backup, but they already did a PPA without a battery, and now you can't add a battery to that system because it's set in stone. No. So that kind of creates an issue too, I think, a lot of the time, because these are 25-year systems. You know, they're supposed to be lasting literally 25 years, and like, do you really think someone's life and scenario and electrical needs are going to be identical now, 5, 10, 20 years down the road? I mean, it just doesn't really make sense to have something in my mind that, I mean, I know you can always come and just install a parallel system next to it, but you know, if you need battery storage and then it's not linking in correctly to the existing system or something, then it's going to be
it just can be more complicated than it needs to be, really. I still believe 100% with all my heart that even with the higher interest rates right now, it's still to purchase the system is still the best bet.
100%.
Without a buy down loan, we can touch on that. The buy down loans are, in my opinion, predatory loans. I personally do not use them really almost ever.
I like to show people the option.
Show them the option.
Show them the numbers.
Show them the option. And you are correct. We talked about this at dinner. There are people who will choose those because they want that lowest possible monthly payment. And that's fine if you know that you're making that choice. And you are happy with your choice and you're educated and you say, Larson, I appreciate the fact that I do understand that I'm having to buy it down, but this little tiny payment sure looks attractive to me right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and do that one. I'd say, fine, if that's what you want to do, we'll do that. However, let me show you that this option, because this one's going to be better off for you in the long run. And then at that point, as we all say in the industry, we can't tell people how to spend their money. We have to allow them to make those educated decisions at that point on their own.
I've had some people, like this one guy, he made a lot of money, and he was all for the buy down because he was like, yeah, like even if I move, like I'm gonna keep this property forever, and I have a huge taxable income, and so you know I'm gonna get 30% out of that fee. So you know, like if the cash price is 30 and then the buy down loan is 42 grand, you know, you get the 30% on that extra 12 grand, you know, in this case.
Absolutely.
So for him, he was like all for it. He was like, I'm going to save another 3 grand or 4 grand on my taxes. My payment's lower. And so he was like, it makes sense for me. But, you know, if you want to pay it off early, you're just going to be stuck paying all that interest.
Yeah, that's what goes into the educating, but really genuinely talking with someone if they are going to have a 5 or 7 year plan in their home, or if they're going to be there forever. And there are people that tell us, I'm going to die here. Like, this is my forever home.
I hear it a lot.
Okay, perfect. If this is your forever home and you know you're not leaving, then all right, we could look at a buy down loan, because over that long period of time, it is going to make more sense. But if you're only here for 5, 7 years, like most people here, then just taking a standard loan is going to be the absolute best, because you're going to save money, but then you're also able to sell the system without any extra fees, and you're golden. Walk away from it happy, the buyer's happy, you're happy, everybody's happy.